The government shutdown continues. It looks like it's going to go just as long as the Democrats can do their No Kings event in Washington, D.C. this weekend. It's all political, and they're screwing with you. You know that it's political because, well, the Democrats, they continue to lie. They continue to act politically. But the good news is, if you're standing by the Republicans and President Trump, you've got a speaker right now who's got a firm grasp on that gavel, and he called them out today at his press conference. We're going to show that to you in just a second, but check this out. CNN yesterday, Dana Bash actually confronted Hakeem Jeffries on his bullshit to his face.
Engagement to try to find
You're
common
right down
ground.
the hall from Mike Johnson's office. I know exactly where you are. You could probably take a few steps and go knock on the door and talk to him. Have you tried that?
Speaker Johnson hasn't been given permission to have a conversation with me or Leader Schumer, and he said as much earlier today.
So you don't think he would talk to you at all?
We can have a conversation, but the problem is that until they get the green light to actually have a meaningful discussion to try to find common ground and a bipartisan path forward and a willingness to address the damage that Republicans have done to the health, the safety, and the economic well-being of the American people, then of course any informal discussion is going to be not fruitful.
So then what are you doing? Why do you continue to do all these TV appearances trying to, compel Johnson and the Republicans to come sit down if any conversations right now aren't going to be fruitful anyway, because it's all bullshit. And if you watched our show yesterday, you saw us expose all of that aforementioned bullshit. But the point is, Hakeem Jeffries, of course, knows that none of it's true. He knows full well that it isn't true. And I love the fact that Dana Bash actually said, I know exactly where you're standing right now. You're like 40 feet from his office. Why don't you, if you're whining about not having a conversation, go have a conversation with him. But as we explained yesterday, the House has already done their job. Republicans have already passed the funding measure. The government would be open right now if the House of Representatives had anything to say about it. Hakeem Jeffries is a eunuch here. He has no power. He has no sway. Chuck Schumer does. And if you noticed, he's not doing a whole lot of media, is he? Only sombrero face over here is. You know how pathetic it is for the Democrats trying to get attention, trying to get media? They did this bogus staged march across the rotunda. I swear these people think that they're still living. Every day for them is some sort of righteous 60s civil rights march where they chant and look at them all. They look like fools. They're marching to the speaker's office to get this Democrat who was just elected in a special election sworn in. It makes no difference to the government shutdown. And by the way, I love the fact that while they're not working and while they forced the government to shut down, they're demanding that Mike Johnson go show up and swear this woman in. And Johnson said, no, you shut down the government. You're not paying our troops. You're furloughing federal employees. I'm not going to jump when you tell me to go swear somebody in. Whether she gets sworn in now and just sits with the government shutdown or she's sworn in later once we open up the government, it makes no difference. But I ain't going to do your bidding if you're not actually going to vote to open the government. Good for him. But the chanting, watch what happens, though, when they go to the speaker's door. All right, so they're doing this whole scene. They're marching her to the speaker's office. They're going to demand that Mike Johnson come out there. They want the big photo op. They brought the media because that's really all this is about, is the media. And they want the viral moment where Mike Johnson has to confront all these angry Democrats and explain why he hasn't sworn this woman in. And Mike Johnson wasn't there. He wasn't even in the office. I mean, that's the slightest little advance work from these people. All right, before we march down there, can someone call and just make sure that he's there? He wasn't even in the building. It's the perfect allegory for how useless and pathetic and demonstrative all of this is. It's really just to get your attention. And the only thing that's appropriate in response is what we're doing, which is mock them, laugh at them, show them to be the losers that they are. Mike Johnson, he didn't go quite as far as we would, but he was pretty good. Take a look.
We want to specifically focus this morning on one area that's gotten a lot of attention and one segment of the population that truly deserves better treatment than the Democrats are giving them, and that is our military. Today, if it weren't for the bold leadership of President Trump helping us to protect our military, everyone needs to understand that 1.3 million active duty service members would be missing a paycheck. They'll get their check, thankfully, because President Trump has shown strong leadership. And under his direction, the Department of War has now redirected unspent funds to ensure that our troops are taken care of. And this is while Democrats are playing political games. Last night, they played some games. They stormed my office. Maybe you saw some of the video online that they themselves shared, or someone did. They berated a Capitol Police officer, screamed at him. He was just merely standing his post. Shows again their disdain for law enforcement, as we see all around the country, the Democrats and everyone in that party screaming, assaulting ICE officers. They did it right here in the Capitol last night. A few members of Congress went into the little foyer of my office and tore down a sign that I had up and just engaged in all sorts of political stunts and antics. They've been doing that every day now, and it shows their desperation. It also shows a very strong contrast between the party that is working for the people and trying to keep the government open and do the right thing, and the party that is engaging in all this nonsense. But they've shown by their actions and now their votes multiple times now, 9 times the Democrats have voted, counting the House and the Senate Democrats, they have voted to not pay the troops. They have voted to block their paychecks. And it's very serious stuff, and they don't seem to care at all. The problem we have right now is that in spite of President Trump's heroic efforts to make sure they get paid, that is a temporary fix because the executive branch's help is not permanent. It can't be. And if the Democrats continue to vote to keep the government closed, as they have done now so many times, then we know that U.S. troops are going to risk missing a full paycheck at the end of this month.
All right. So he's not budging on this, and he's now turning the mirror back over to the Democrats and publicly shaming them. They're the ones who are willfully choosing to keep our troops from getting paid. And I just, in terms of images, in terms of what matters to voters, when you want grown-ups to be responsible for your government and actually show up every day to do their job, do the work that the taxpayers need them to do, and just keep the basic functions of government happening. What image do you think works to tell that story? This is the image of the leadership of the Republicans. This is what the Democrats looked like at the same time. I think it's a pretty stark and obvious contrast as to who the grown-ups are and who's serious. And look at them all with their smartphones, all wanting to post their Insta story about how they're chanting and going into an empty office where the speaker isn't even there and bothering a cop. And here you've got the grown-ups who are dressed for work and ready to get to business, if only Democrats weren't playing stupid games. You heard the speaker right there today reiterating what we explained to you yesterday about how President Trump has been able to move some of the money at the Pentagon budget and make sure that our troops get paid. I mentioned this yesterday to you, and I told you that Democrats are angry about that. Democrats are mad that the troops are getting paid. You don't believe me? Well, here was CNN this morning.
How do you feel about these paychecks going out during the shutdown? I don't think anyone's opposed to people being paid, but people look at this and say this could actually extend the shutdown because it takes out some of the pressure points that might exist that would lead Democrats and Republicans to come together.
Oh, you know what? Of course I want our military paid. Of course I want federal law enforcement officers to be paid. There's a way to do that. I'm an appropriator. We should have passed appropriations bills. There's a way to run a government, and this is not the way to run a government.
Yeah. So at the same time that she says, of course, I want the troops to get paid. Well, there's a great way to get them paid. Just pass the bill that's sitting on the table right now. And she knows that. And in terms of appropriations bills, there's like 7 out of 12 that are already ready to go, but they can't get to them until they fund the government. She's lying, and she's playing games. She's playing games with your military. So the question that I posed to you before we started our program today was, who's going to blink, Republicans or Democrats? Someone's going to cave. Somebody's going to cave on this. We know that. So let me show you Mike Johnson, the speaker, this morning, where he talks about what their strategy is and whether they're willing in any way to negotiate or back down and give the Democrats what they want. You watch him, listen to what he has to say, and then you tell me, who do you think is going to blink here?
That we just won't go along with. We won't sell out the long-term security and future of the United States so that Chuck Schumer can prevent a primary challenge from his left wing. We will not be a part of that nonsense. And until Schumer and the left wing of his party are satisfied enough that the pain this shutdown has caused has reached a limit that they're satisfied with, then the Republicans are going to stand here every single day, and we're going to continue to deliver the simple facts directly to the American people.
And it is cutting through, in my opinion, despite the efforts of the corporate legacy media to try to just tell one side of the story, and the side of the story that's full of lies. I mean, you even saw Dana Bash in the clip we showed at the beginning from CNN sort of saying, hey, dude, no one's buying this crap. Where's your sombrero, by the way? Did you shave the mustache? You looked better. Looked better with the mustache. Also, Johnson turned his ire directly to two of the most odious individuals in the United States Congress, Alex Padilla and Adam Schiff, both of California. Are you proud, Golden State? Are you proud?
Now, this is worthy of note. Both California senators, Adam Schiff and Alex Padilla, are gleeful about this government shutdown. They agree with Chuck Schumer when he said very candidly just a few days ago, every day of the shutdown gets better for us. Who's the us? He's talking about Democrats. He thinks this is assisting their party and giving him political cover so he doesn't attract a Marxist challenger in his next Senate reelect. That's what this is about. So he thinks the government shutdown is allowing him to show a fight against President Trump and Republicans, and he is happy about that.
Wow, he went there, but that is absolutely the truth. Everyone knows it inside the Beltway in D.C. They're just acknowledging it as a fact. Everything you're seeing from Schumer, and here's why I can prove to you that it was a fact. This exact same issue came up in March, and Schumer did the responsible thing, signed the continuing resolution, and kept us from going into a government shutdown in March, and he was destroyed. And who was leading the attack on Chuck Schumer? None other than that plucky little Latina from the Bronx, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She's raising money like nobody's business. And the second she decides to challenge Chuck Schumer in a primary for Senate, it's over for Chucky Boy. And that's why he's fighting like this. It's demonstrative. It's just to fend off that primary challenge. Honestly, the only thing that's going to save Chuck Schumer from the primary challenge is when AOC decides to swing for the fences and actually run for president in 28 instead of small potatoes running for Senate in 26. I'm glad that Johnson actually called Schumer out on that. It makes him even more pathetic than he appears. Finally, over on CNN, great moment here with former Congressman Peter Meijer, who's sort of cutting through the noise here because everyone's like, oh, yeah, the Democrats have the upper hand here. Democrats always win this, always win these fights. Well, yeah, they always drive the media narrative because they always have the media doing their bidding for them. But when the chips are down, and when push comes to shove and the American people actually pay attention to this issue, well, former Congressman Meijer actually explains it all, and it's hard to argue with him.
I don't think this is good for the Democrats. I mean, you have Donald Trump negotiating Mideast peace and flying to Egypt to oversee an agreement between Hamas and Israel. And meanwhile, Chuck Schumer is parading around the Senate, trying to stage a photo op. I mean, the split screen between actual governance of the Trump administration and just a Senate Democrats trying to figure out their message, right? Senator Van Hollen pointed out, or he called the expiring Obamacare subsidies a ticking time bomb the Republicans planted. They were introduced in ARPA, the American Rescue Plan, in 2021. I know, I was in Congress. We all voted against it on the Republican side. That was a Democrat budget reconciliation bill. It got to the Senate, and it needed 50 Senate votes. They talked about making it permanent, could not get unified Democratic support to make it permanent. It came up again in the Inflation Reduction Act. They kicked it can down the road. Again, solely Democrats voting in support of this could not get Democrats to agree to make these permanent. And now somehow, years later, it's the Republicans that are the sticking point. You were right in March, sir. Chuck Schumer should just continue to reopen the government. And right now, Donald Trump is having to take tariff revenue to support food stamp and WIC programs. He's reallocating budgets within DOD so that troops are getting paid. He's actually doing work, and Democrats are still figuring out their message.
Brilliant. Well said. The star of the national tour of Jesus Christ Superstar, Peter Meyer, is absolutely correct. He's not? Because he looks like, with the, okay. Well, either way, former Congressman Peter Meyer is 100% accurate, correct. As we explained yesterday, Democrats are really shutting down the government just for publicity purposes, to build their mailing list, to raise some money, and to do their big rally this weekend, and then to pretend that they're trying to fight to lower your premiums. But remember, please don't forget, what they're really doing is fighting for tax dollars to go to subsidize the health insurance companies. That's what it means to have a subsidy to lower your premiums. I mean, your premiums are still expensive. The difference is somebody else is paying part of it. And that money goes where? To the health insurance companies. The same people that they want to celebrate when their CEO gets assassinated. They love holding up the insurance companies as the big bad monsters, and yet they're taking your tax dollars to fund them, all because they broke our health insurance system in the first place by forcing Obamacare down your throats. And it was all done with lies. You like your doctor, you can keep your doctor? Lie. You like your insurance, you can keep your insurance? Lie. Republicans are making your insurance more expensive because they don't want to continue the subsidies from COVID? Damnable lie. It's all obvious. It's all proven. All you got to do is find the facts yourself. They're all out there if you're interested. That's why you're here. And I'm glad you are. So, final exit question. Who's gonna blink? Who's gonna cave? Who has the upper hand here? Let us know down below. And as you're thinking and voting, I'll tell you what I think. What Peter Meyer said there is the most important part right at the beginning there. On one side of the screen, Donald Trump has been able to fly to the Middle East and get the Arab nations, Egypt, Israel, Western Europe, Canada, and Gaza and Hamas to all agree to end a 2-year war and have the hostages released back to their families. He got those people to agree and have everybody celebrating on all sides of the equation. And yet somehow Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, AOC, and Bernie Sanders can't figure out a way to reach an agreement with that same man. What's broken here? Do Trump gets Israel and Hamas to agree to a deal that they're both happy with? Maybe the problem is the Democrats. Just maybe.